So let's continue talking about this particular now focus on James Gishuru Road, Rironi, right? And the entire mess that this has been. This project started in 2017 when Uhuru Kenyatta was campaigning for re-election. Uhuru Kenyatta has left office. Uhuru Kenyatta is making peace in Africa. He's dealing with Ethiopians. He's dealing with the M23 and the DRC government. He's left office. Road not completed. Another section from Mololongo at the interchange to Kitengela, interchange to Machakos. He launched that project as he was launching his campaign for re-election in 2017. And again, the same Uhuru Kenyatta is dealing with peace in Africa. Chaos on these roads. What on earth is happening? Moses Nderito is on the line. Good morning, Moses.
Morning, Eric. Hi, City, and a lovely lady too. How are you guys doing?
Very well, Moses. Thank you, Moses. How are you?
Very good.
Moses, you've been on this show before, and we've talked about the state of affairs, and particularly road safety, because you're a big campaigner of road safety.
Guys, I think maybe the best thing you said is today's proverb. We've forgotten our old ways and should not have discarded them. And that's the same reason why buildings are dropping down left, right, and center. How you start wondering who supervises these roads. You know, they're behaving like the road was put like Legos, and one day we woke up and it was there. We saw this thing happening, and they go all the way to that Rironi junction. It's a complete mess. Over a weekend, you cannot even cross over.
Yeah.
So it kills the whole idea of entering the southern bypass. Keep coming down. You get to, if you live in Waroko, if you want to go to Kianda, how do you take your kids to school?
Yep.
They didn't actually do, what are they called? Laybys for you to leave the highway to get into those. Come down, you get to Brookside. It's a bus stop, and then it's a 90-degree turn to get into Brookside. So if you're coming out of Brookside onto Ayaki Way, you find traffic flying down, and then that you're trying to get in there.
And there are people who are also now trying to maneuver from entering the expressway because they don't want to enter the expressway.
So at least when they're trying to enter the expressway, there's traffic. You can fight and
slow down.
Squeeze in. You come on the day when there's no traffic. Matatus are flying down. So you're coming straight into a highway, into a road. Westlands, I don't even know what to call it. Yeah, they have the U-turns. If you're coming from, let's say, Westlands, from Consulate, and you want to go to Sari, those U-turns, even those guys who put those U-turns there, they can't see where they put them in the wrong place. Yeah. Then the Matatus are carrying people in the middle of the road. Not their fault, because where are they supposed to
There's
park?
no bus stop.
Exactly. So instead of guys going to Mombasa to speak to other engineers, take those engineers, put them on the road, as Ndu said, let them do a field trip. Let them enter. In fact, what we should tell them is, go to the Nairobi Expressway office by Matatu.
Yes.
And see how you will cross that road.
Yep.
And your mission is to get to the end of the road. That is your mission.
This business of people being in Prados and pushing us out of the road is why they don't realize what the rest of us are going through.
Yep.
Yeah. Because they don't see. Yeah, and then they're using the top road, and they don't. It's a complete mess. I once said, maybe sometimes you wonder if our roads are engineered by, and no offense to blind people, because how does that happen? And engineers go to school for 6 years. Then they have to be certified. It's a complete mess. It's actually a complete mess. It's, as the city said, it's impunity, and impunity from this point of view, that we are building roads for cars, not for people. If we had built those roads with people in mind, they would be very different.
They would be.
Because look at Ngong Road. Look at Ngong Road. No, Ngong Road, from Junction all the way to, what is this place called? Mortuary Roundabout.
Mortuary Roundabout. That section is okay.
What a beautiful road. Same agency.
From Junction
so what happened
to Karen.
Exactly. So how does the same agency make a mistake on one road? You do a very good part. It's got bicycle lanes, it's got walkways, it's got everything that we expect of a road. Then the next part, you do, I don't know, what I would just call madness. How?
This is impunity. And like we're talking about this,
Zero
this morning,
supervision. Zero supervision.
somebody should take responsibility. Moses, thank you very much
Exactly.
for speaking to us.
Yes, guys.
Asante.
Cheers.
We want to open the phone lines. Let's open this up. It's a rant and rave session because people have actually, from the moment when we talked about this last week and said the CS for roads and transport, Kipchumba Murkomen, should talk to his engineers at Kenha. There's a lot of public outcry on this.
Yes.
And you realize it's not just one section of the road, it's very many parts of the roads. The CS, to his credit, says he instructed Kenha to respond to this. And this is the reason why we have this statement, which says nothing. Says we are going to complete this thing by the end of December, and then we have set aside some money which we are going to work on, and we are working with the utility companies which we are working with, and we are going to put on as footbridges, and the footbridges will be done.
Kenha is nestled in that ministry, is it not?
Yes, it is.
And the minister does have powers, does he not?
He does.
So did you hear? I mean, I haven't come across anything that was done that would amount to action being taken against people who are supposed to be in charge of this. Forget these long stories. These are not politicians. Why are they playing the role of politicians? We expect them to tell us things which they never do. That we've understood. But you've been funded, your job is clear, and yet you are telling us stories. You're talking about walkways. What about lanes which disappeared?
Yep.
Okay. What about street lights which were there before? The question here is, can you just return the road to what it was before?
Nobody's asking you to build an entire metropolis now or
No,
to
no, no.
recreate something in the imagination of minds of a developed city. Nobody's asking you to do that. Everybody is saying, at least return the state of convenience that was there before you mucked about with the road. And that's it.
They did
That's
say,
it.
and they did say when issues were raised at the beginning, they said, no. As the road is being completed, part of what they will do is return the road to factory settings, meaning exactly what was there before.
On the 31st of October 2021, the previous Cabinet Secretary for Transport and Roads, James Macharia, said that the old road will be in a better state once it's fully reopened for use next month. Next month now was November, a year
2021.
ago today. He highlighted that the contractors are currently done with piling and they are setting up the beams, which will be done by mid-November, which is right about now, last year, to enable the old road to be open by December. We will not just open the old way, but it involves restoring and enhancing the road. So the things that we are talking about now, it's not as though we are building castles in the sky. He said they were going to do these things. It has been mostly damaged because of the heavy equipment which is being used for construction. But worry not. It's not me making up these words. But worry not, as we shall leave it in a better condition than we found it. This is in Kenya.
Yes.
This is here.
This was the CS for transport.
Yes.
We are not talking about James Macharia, the individual,
No.
the finance expert,
In
the
his
banker.
capacity
It is
as
the Minister for
Cabinet
Roads.
Secretary for Transport and Roads. The road we're talking about is this one that everybody has an issue with.
This is about the citizens of this country. Now, the agencies in this country whose job it is to make sure that all is okay. Now, people who work for Kenha, people who work in that ministry, when we talk about wealth declaration and lifestyle audits, no. It must be done for people who work in this ministry and these agencies, because you cannot tell us that 90 billion, 9 billion, whatever the billions allocated for a road, you don't see the very thing that it was mandated for doesn't happen. They need to audit the lifestyles of individuals who work in these places. They need to check the wealth declarations, and they need to tell us what it is, because we already have cases of individuals who've worked in these agencies that deal with the roads and who couldn't quite explain how it is they accumulated their wealth. I don't need 10 people. I just need one person who has worked in this sector. And I am saying everyone who works there, should have their lifestyles audited, and we should understand how much money they actually have, because that money that was allocated for the road did not build the road. So where did it go?
It's true. And look, if it's the only thing you can shout about, because after all, they said they're sorting out these other issues. If it's the only thing that you can shout about, for people to be kept accountable on the things that they said they were going to do, even if they didn't say they were going to do them, common sense, logic begs that the way in which you found something, leave it in that state once you're done. Or if you can, leave it in a better state. And you actually said that you were going to do this. It doesn't mean that people have to shout, that people have to be inconvenienced, that people have to die. Because, folks, that's how serious this thing is. Wahakiwe is just one sea of soot. People are crossing, trying to get over. People don't know where. James Geshoro there at that junction. Okay, do we cross here? There's no zebra crossing. There's nothing. And you think that you wake up every day and you get into your air-conditioned four-wheel drive vehicle and you drive to Barabara House and you come back every day and you think that it is okay to window dress a situation and tell the people of the country that we will fix it by December, and you think it is okay not to do what you said you were going to do. Let it be on record today that it is not okay. And if it is the only thing that people are going to make noise about on a regular basis until you get your ducks in a row, then by golly, let's make noise about it every day.
You know, there were trees along these paths. Trees. Many of them were removed. But in their stead, if you look at the pillars, there was an attempt to grow some shrubs on those pillars.
Oh, those things, the green things.
Yeah, the green things. The green things look okay, but they try to grow something on it. Now, if you come from the roundabout in the GPO heading along Mombasa Road, that section, you actually find those things have actually grown. You see them. Live plants. But thereafter, you suddenly find, yes, those green thingamajigs are there, but the plants keep drying up. Now, these things were not a free donation. Somebody was paid to do these things. And you want to ask yourself, and this, of course, according to the design, was the best thing to have done. The shrubbery that existed before, the understanding when you do such things is you replace them. We're not asking you to return the trees that you cut down. No. There has to be an effort that shows that, yes, we did remove these, but in their stead, this is what we have done to ensure that the purpose that they served continues.
How about just starting something and finishing?
This is it. And do what you said you were going to do.
Start something and finish
it.
I am sure in the designs, for example, for this section between ABC Place and Rironi, there were timelines. It was supposed to have been completed by 2020. 2017 to 2018 to 2019 to 2020. If we just count all years inclusive, 4. We have gone from 2021 into 2022. Contractor is not on site. What is this?
Eric.
Same thing. The expressway, not completed. The other section to Machakos, not completed. The other section from Junction to Karen, all the way onwards into Ngong, not completed. And very many other sections of the road. Engineers, the Institution for Engineers of Kenya are meeting in Mombasa. And among those engineers are those that design these roads.
And the people who are actually...
And they're sitting there.
People who are supposed to oversee these roads are also in that particular meeting.
How about people just do the thing that they're supposed to?
Eric, they know nothing will happen to them even if they don't complete their jobs. They know.
It doesn't matter how many children actually have to go through the trauma of trying to cross a road to school.
How is that their concern?
Because their children are picked by school bus, or they drop their children, or they have a driver that takes them to school. It doesn't matter that a child somewhere in Reagan is trying to cross over from this side of the road to the other side of the road because that's where the school is.
But we know of lives that have been lost simply because of these simple things that we're talking about that they were supposed to do, that were just the basics, fundamentals. When people understand now the nature and the consequences of impunity, you know it doesn't matter what ill you commit. It doesn't matter the crimes you commit against humanity, the humanity being the Kenyan. Nothing will happen to you. So you simply do what you think and you don't care because, after all, what is going to happen to you? Because if we keep talking about these cases and they keep multiplying and we see them, they've understood. Nothing will happen.
But this impunity goes all the way up in government.
Yes, it does.
Because when you see a CS coming more than once saying, this road is going to be repaired, And then the CS comes and says, we are going to issue a contract for the repair of the roads, knowing full well, I mean, why are we issuing an extra contract for repair of a road? What was the initial plan?
The initial contract, the money, what was it for?
What was it for?
Yes.
Okay. So this contractor has come and demolished a road to construct a road, which we are going to pay for the next 26 years for the construction. And then we set aside more money for repair of the damages that he has done while we are paying him for. And then eventually we come to hear that even that contract that was promised was never issued.
Yeah.
And life moves on and goes on.
Like it's normal.
How do we
The
how do
only,
we just sit back
the only
and
thing
let
that
these
moves,
things
Eric,
happen?
when there's a certain amount of money that is planned for, that money supposedly leaves wherever the money is nestled in, and it moves to supposedly build the road. The money is never, you don't hear of money allocated not having been used. No, it's sitting somewhere. Now, where does it go to? Because money doesn't move on its own. People move it. So the people who are in charge of this, where do they move the money to? It's a never-ending story. And you wonder why it is that when people say that at the heart of the dysfunction that we sometimes see in government has to do with the people who have the mandate to ensure that they manage our resources, managing it to benefit themselves and only themselves. So if it seems to be the norm, again, consequences of it starts with a leadership that disregards the law, the rule of law. And people take the cue.
It's the way to go.
It's the way to go, and nothing will happen to you. No one wants to do what they're supposed to do. They want to do it because of the extra benefits that they derive from it. And it's become the norm. It's what's normal. And it doesn't matter. And you even want to ask, okay, so at what point, Eric, you ask the question, is it enough? It's never enough. It's you move from one road to the other. You do the bare minimum that shows that some effort has been made. Even this very road here, the moment you leave Airtel and you take that little curb, that road is uneven. There's always a dip.
Yep.
Which means whatever was done on that, the upper, it's now an upper part, should have been done on the lower part. It's how long has that been? And there are sections when you turn around and go back to town. You know that roundabout near General Motors?
Yeah.
There's a section there that already has serious potholes and it's growing. I thought the understanding was that the damage caused would be returned to, as I called it, factory settings.
That's everybody else's understanding. Clearly not theirs.
Yes.
People are ranting and raving about very many other parts of roads under construction. Remember the Nzu Bridge?
Yes.
In December last year, people from one village were going to another part of Kitui County. And they were crossing a bridge in Mwingi called the Nzu Bridge at the Nzu River.
Yes.
It was flooded. There was flash floods. The driver attempted to cross with people on board this canter.
It was a bus.
It was a bus.
Yes.
Washed. Many people died.
They did.
Officials from government went there and they said, actually, yes, we
Bro,
had
they
started this construction.
went in choppers.
This construction, we had started it. I want to assure that by the end of January, this bridge will be completed.
As we speak?
As we speak, the Nzu Bridge in Mwingi, not yet complete. We're in another rainy season.
We're in another government.
Another government. People still need to cross from one part to go to the other part. People coming from Mwingi and they're going to know they can only use this section of the road. So what do we expect to see again this time? And what happened to the promise that thing was going to be done? The bridge, whose construction had already started, whose construction had already been commissioned, was not completed. Professor Architect Maringa, who's still the PS for infrastructure, went there and pledged that by end of January, that bridge would be completed. To date, it hasn't been finished. So what are we talking about? It's not about who's in power, who's not. It's who's in office. You as an engineer, you as a supervisor, you who is working as a public servant, and you have a job to do. Why can't you just
do your job?
Oversee that the job is actually getting done? It is so disheartening and annoying sometimes. You actually wonder what's wrong. Let's take a break at 28 minutes to 9. With all this ranting and raving, we'll open up the phone lines for you to continue. I mean, which other part of Kenya has not been completed since God knows 20 whatever? Right? Let's hear from you. We'll take a break. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Let's rave. City, you were saying there are other parts of the country that you have heard people complaining about. Projects that started, projects that stalled.
And it's not even months, it's years. You know, if you go to Homa Bay County, people know about Mbita, people know about the Sipe Center. And there's and people assume that actually Mbita is the headquarters of Suba. Actually, commercial maybe, but the administrative is actually a place called Sindo. Now, there's a road from Mbita to Sindo, and there's a section. When it rains, it becomes a lake. It becomes almost impassable, and there's black cotton soil. So I was asking someone the other day, we were talking about, it turns out that they come from that region, and it also turns out that I worked in that region. So I asked, there's this section of the road that was a bit of a problem, because from there you go to Sindo, then you go towards Gwasi. He told me, sorry, they are still fixing it. I said, they're still doing what exactly? It hasn't been, that road. I said, there was talk of putting a tarmac on the road. Said, yeah, you know, they keep repairing it. I'm thinking. So I asked him, okay, what about the Gwasi road that goes on to a place called Sori and then goes on to Migori County? So yeah, that one is now possible. Now, you know, some of those roads, you had a problem driving through them in the dry season when there is no rain.
Yep.
Because you're not sure whether it's a road or not, but because of the dips, the rainy season comes and washes away certain sections of the road. Now, there are roads in this country that when you talk to the people in charge, you talk even to the area MP, they'll tell you, yes, it was commissioned. We even know the contractor who's supposed to start. And yes, and you ask, so has the contractor been given that deposit that they normally given before they start the job? And the conversation ends there.
That's it. That's the end of that.
Yes. For me, what I consider tragic is when I don't drive around the country as I used to now, but when I looked at the road network that the previous government had actually completed and done, it is a marvelous thing to behold because it changes so much.
When they complete it.
Yes. And then you begin to ask, if they actually did what they said they were going to do, how much better off would the citizenry of this country be? Because, you know, the road network is a security issue.
Yeah.
It is something that is fundamental to security because it facilitates movement.
Yeah.
Yes.
Audrey in Kino, good morning.
Morning, Eric. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Morning, Drew. Morning, City.
Good morning,
Morning,
Audrey.
So my complaint is about two roads. The first one is the Wayaki Way, which I use on a daily basis.
Audrey, you're in a very windy place.
Yeah, I'm headed to work. Is that okay now?
Yes.
Yeah. Pull up the windows, yes.
Yes. So, along Wayaki Way, before you get to Aga Khan School,
Yes.
there are only two places for you to cross the road.
Yes.
That is at Kino. There is an underground channel for crossing.
In Kino.
Yes. And Mudiga also has an underground channel for crossing. Only.
The rest of the stretch
Nowhere to cross.
up to
What
around
they have
Safaricom.
Yes. What they have put are these too small to bump to try and slow down traffic,
Yeah.
which doesn't really help because we have vehicles that pass those bumps like they're nothing.
Yeah.
You see school kids. I once saw school kids at Kangemi trying to climb over the wall that is in between the road for them to cross. And the thought of them just falling back
Yep.
gave me shivers.
Yep.
Because I'm imagining if they trip and fall back. And there is a matatu that is coming at a high speed.
Yep.
What will happen to these kids? Because the bridge at Kangemi is not yet complete. And that is what they usually use to cross the road.
Audrey, over the last 5 years,
Yes.
that not 5, 7 years that this project has been ongoing. Have they ever created a place for pedestrians to cross the road, even during construction?
Never. It is for you to find a way to maneuver
Figure it out.
and cross. Yes, figure it out on your own.
It's complete chaos.
That's the first road. The second
road. Mm-hmm.
Yes, the second road is Kisii Migori Highway. It's a barrier, the one that goes all the way to the border.
Right.
That is that.
Mm-hmm.
There are portions of the road that are not yet complete. They have been left that way. You can clearly see there is no more construction going on,
Yep.
but the road is not complete.
Yep.
Also, the road has no marking. It has not been clearly marked. And since the road was done, we have lost a lot of people on the road. Like from the village, we have lost a close relative because of accidents thrown on the road. And this one as well, nowhere to cross.
Same issues. Thank you, Audrey. You've gotten into a very noisy place, but we get your point now. Mulemi in Kisumu. Hello, Mulemi.
I can hear you guys. Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I love what you guys do every morning. I'm a silent listener.
Asante sana.
Yeah, now we have a stretch in Kisumu between Migosi Junction and Lake Basin Mall. It's been like that forever.
How many years?
In fact, I can't count. Because I suspect it was under Nusumkate. So you'd imagine from Nusumkate to now.
Wow.
Yes, and interestingly, when we had a free cities, that part was hurriedly done. Then we used the overpass for some time. Then it was closed again. So the most unfortunate scenario actually is being vandalized.
Wow.
Because they were supposed to do the barriers, then they do the service lanes. So unfortunately, they closed the road. Now we are supposed to use the undone service part that is really bad. And now what was to be done, in fact, they had laid some roads for them to do the concrete barrier. They're being vandalized every day. So we wonder what needs to happen for that piece to be done. Because if I had the might, sometimes I feel like I'm so, I don't know,
powerless.
I would have removed the barriers. Because we used it during our free cities and we could cross the other side. Because after they turned where? It's a very small stretch. That's the same place when the railway derailed, that place was all cut off. Yet the upper part could be used. So I don't know what needs to happen for that part to be done.
We hear you, Milemi. The message is home. Thank you very much. Thomas.
Good morning.
Good morning, Thomas.
Mine is just, I'm wondering, how come I've never had like the government taking the contractors to court because of one, delay of works, two, shoddy work done, because the due diligence being done by the issuing authority, whoever is giving out the contract. They go through a due process where people bid, and in some funny way, I think the highest bid always wins here in Kenya.
Not the lowest.
I think that's the way of doing business anyway. Nobody is ever held accountable on the kind of standard of work they're doing. Because, for example, if they're building the road, I assume in the contract they should also include the drainage, the shoulder works. Literally, they just do it mpaka hapa kando kidogo tu, alafu wanaacha unaona yote ni mchanga.
They move on.
Yeah, they just move on. They don't consider other road users. If they're just building the road, is just for the cars only. Other people, not considered.
Thomas, we hear you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Asante. Simon in Kisumu.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a concern of a road between Katito and Awasi. On the map, that road had been tarmacked during the Moi era between Kindu Bay, Katito, Awasi, Chebelit, and then to Nandi Hills. But this stretch between Katito and Awasi has never been done up to date. I'm sure City, you can concur with me on that.
Yes, in fact, I'm actually picturing the road even as you speak.
Yeah, because I remember when the bridge collapsed at Rai, people were diverted to this road, but then nobody could make out to travel because most of the vehicles got stuck, because that would have been the alternative route after the bridge had collapsed. So people are now using Awasi, Kapsoit, and then Sondu in case when there's a problem. But then now this little stretch of around 17 kilometers has not been done to date. But despite on the map, it has been marked, it has been tarmacked by Kera.
This is madness. Simon.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we hear you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter in Ruiru.
Hello, good morning, everybody.
Good morning,
Peter.
Welcome to the Rant and Rave.
Yeah, it's been a while. I'm always listening to you guys. Thank you. Now, I have two concerns. There is a stretch of road here on Pacifica extension of the highway between the underground called the passageway at Pangani and where it connects with the Uhuru Highway. The street lights went off. I think there used to be solar street lights.
Which side is this? Is this using the Wangari Maathai Road or Muranga Road through Ngara?
Wangari Maathai stretch, yes.
Okay.
Yes, Wangari Maathai stretch. Yeah, the street lights went off. That stretch normally has Mkokoteni pushers who are coming from the Forest Road, Limuru Road Market at night. So you can imagine speeding down from the other direction.
Yep.
And you can't see them because the street lights are not there. Kenya has never bothered to replace those street lights. It's a very small stretch. The second concern is about how Kura handles its project. And a typical example is just here at Uphill. Second Gong Avenue and third Gong Avenue. These two roads had a contract which, if you go there, you'll find that they were only done halfway. Yeah, and ironically, Sargong Avenue is the headquarters of NTSA, yet another road authority body. So the road is supposed to be single carriage, but it goes up to a point where it goes into a single carriage. Meaning, if you remember how the colonial roads were in the city, they used to only cater for the few citizens who are there. Yes. So you have to be so careful, especially when you're passing school buses. Statues. It's a very small stretch, but somehow the road was never completed. Nobody talks about that.
How long are we talking about?
Those roads were done in 2020, and it was about 7 months works. Then the contractor left the site. We thought maybe they will come back. They have never come back. So I hear all the concerns you have, but it is a general malaise. These road bodies.
It just stretches across all of them.
It stretches across the entire country, really. You can't really pick one place. Wayaki Way, yes, it's a major concern, but everywhere you go, there is something wrong.
We hear you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have the other Peter in Nairobi. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you very much. Mine is a process concern. You see, before any infrastructure project or road is constructed, there should be a cost-benefit analysis or a return on that particular investment where you have the economic and social feasibility that is done on the road, in which case you're able to know where people cross, the time people take. But what happens is, we're just concerned with it. You know, we have a traffic count, the number of vehicles that pass, and then that's it. I know Kenya Roads Board, but this is at the audit process.
Yep.
They introduce what they call the value for money audit, where they look at the economic and social feasibility on road projects around the country. But the problem is we don't have a baseline to know the initial situation, in which case we're able to know what happens after and how the road should be designed in a way that it addresses the needs for everyone, from all the road users, those who are using those who walk, the vehicles and so on. And I think that's a problem with the current setting on how roads are constructed. And until that is done, we will still be complaining and doing the same things. Perhaps the next time you have someone, a representative from any of the road agencies, you should put them to task whether they have a cost-benefit analysis before they have any infrastructure, any road project or not. My experience is that they don't, and I think we need to address that.
That's a good question. We'll be looking for them. Like we said, we had extended an invitation to the KENHA Director General, but he's in Mombasa attending the forum by the Institution of Engineers of Kenya. We'll be looking for him, including also the bosses at Kenya Roads Board, because they've got to answer to very many of these questions. Geshoro in Mombasa, good morning. No, Geshoro along Mombasa Road. Yeah, along Mombasa Road.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yes.
Switch off your radio TV, please.
Yes. I'm talking from Akiba Mombasa Road.
Okay.
We have this road which connects Rikoni Ring Road all the way to a club called Nerku.
Mm-hmm.
That place, the road was never finished over 10 years now. We demonstrated and the road was partially finished.
Yep.
Then they did erect some writing, which up to today, nothing has happened. Now we are going to the festive season. Thieves have started already stealing from passers-by during the day, during the night. We have taken our report to Industrial Police Station.
Yep.
But so far, the security is becoming very bad because the lights are not on and the road is not finished. And there's a church, there's a school, there are 4 estates and 1 shopping mall called Quickmart.
Mm.
So, my dear, I do not understand where we are because this is over 10 years now.
These are questions that we are taking, and when we get the responsible authorities in the studio, we'll have specific questions to ask them. Thank you very much, Geshiro.
Welcome, most welcome.
John in Nairobi West.
Morning.
Good morning.
I'm an engineer. I've practiced for a while, about 8 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you the problem with the Kenyan roads is not the engineers.
Mm.
The designs are usually done perfectly, marvelous. Most of these guys, even some of them are studied abroad.
Mm.
The problem usually comes when Kenya procures the contractors.
Uh-huh.
As a contractor, you have to bribe highly.
Uh-huh.
So let's say you're building a road that costs 5 billion.
Yes.
Your profits, maybe you expected 500 million.
Yes.
You have to give that 500 million bribe to Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're building the road, how do you make your money?
By cutting
You now
corners.
have to take short, yes.
Mm.
And then the supervisory body that's supposed to make sure you don't cut corners have been compromised already.
Which body is this?
Kenya.
Okay.
This is Kenya. They're supposed to come and supervise and make sure you're doing a job well as a contractor, as per the design.
John, usually, what's the profession of the person supervising such a project?
From Kenya or otherwise?
He's an engineer.
Okay.
Okay. So, and he's been procured by Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
He's a supervisor. The resident engineer usually supervises work done by the contractors.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so the contractor, if there were supposed to be 10 footbridges, I'll build 2 or 3.
Mm.
And the guy who's supposed to tell me this is wrong already took money.
So when you say it's not the engineers to blame, which engineer specifically are you talking about?
So the design engineers do their jobs properly.
Okay.
Okay. They do their jobs properly. So it's up to the contractor. The contractor usually has an engineer who makes sure the design is implemented.
Yep.
And then there's an engineer from Kenya
Yep.
who does the supervision.
Yeah.
So now, if the Kenya people have been compromised, then what job are they supervising?
Okay.
So that's usually the major problem on our roads.
So this whole thing is just leading, it's head back into impunity because of corruption somewhere.
Yes. And then you see some of these roads that are not finished because the payments are usually done in stages.
Mm-hmm.
You find that you do a certain section of the road, then Kenya pays you as a contractor.
Mm-hmm.
They approve your payment.
Yes.
So it's usually done step by step by step. So you find you've done 80% of the road. The remaining 20%, you haven't been paid for a whole year. You are a contractor.
Mm.
You have employees to pay, guys on your payroll. You have equipment on site. You're basically bleeding money, and the government isn't paying. So you leave site and then you wait for payment.
So
that's why some of these roads haven't been finished for years.
So we can attribute the non-completion, like all these people who've been calling for the last 2 hours, who complain about
Yes.
unfinished roads. They said they were going to start some odd years ago. We can actually attribute this to non-payment of contractors, and so they leave the work unfinished.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Thank you, John.
All right.
Let's hear from Dennis in Nairobi as well. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Asante sana. You're having a great conversation today.
Mm.
Two things I'd like to say.
Yeah.
Number one, the great John Maxwell said everything rises and falls on leadership.
Mm.
The quality of leaders we have in the engineering, Ministry of Roads, and even now building is one thing.
Mm.
Not because they don't know what to do, it's because they don't supervise very well what needs to be done. If we're able to get that with regard to leadership, we will be moving forward.
Mm.
The second thing I'd like to say, listening to the conversation this morning, I realized that we are validating. I'm not happy what C.S. Kuria said, Moses Kuria said the other day about Kenyans dying and therefore he wants to bring in GMOs.
Mm.
But listening to us this morning, we are almost confirming that what he said
There are 1,000 ways to die in
in
Kenya.
many ways true. Yes. And a lot of it now is happening. It's only that GMOs will die slowly, but on the roads and buildings, it's instant death.
Mm.
And we are just confirming that, one of the ways that Kenyans die is roads and buildings. And we are, I don't want to say helpless, but we are far away from getting to the right track.
Yep.
Yes, and it will start with the leadership. Employing a normal civil servant to go and supervise 20-30 billion job.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a problem there. I'm not saying that we don't employ them. I'm just saying we need to look at
We need to look at what
way.
we're doing. That's true.
Yes.
Thank
Because
you,
he will
Dennis.
go there and he'll be told 3, 4, and he will give it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, actually what Dennis is saying, it goes back into, if you have taken 30 minutes for somebody to appear before a panel of 3 people, and those 3 people have determined that this person is good enough to be the principal secretary for infrastructure or roads and transport, and that person will go and sign off the amount of money that will go to the Kenya Roads Board, which will then sign off the money that goes to the Kura, Kera, Kenha.
Who in turn sign off the money that should go
to the contractor. Shida ilianza kitambo sana.
Sana.
Kitambo
And to start to
sana.
unravel that thing. Sheesh.
Thank you for all the rants and raves. Over 4,000 people have been killed in road accidents this year alone. And this is according to a report by the National Transport and Safety Authority. Roads are a major killer in this country. We've got to do something about it.